and the track we muted at 3:14. I make a living deciding what people don't hear. That's the simplest way to explain mixing, turning a mess into intention, carving space, so the song sounds like it always planned to arrive exactly when it does. I sit in a room padded like a secret, move faders, draw automation, tuck breaths where they feel like confessions instead of mistakes. Most days I love being the person who gets to choose which frequencies are forgiven. Lena calls my studio our second apartment, which is generous considering it smells like coffee and dust more than home. She's a singer with a voice that reminds you how your first kiss actually happened, worse than you remember and better for it. We met when her band needed a cheap mix, and I needed to believe I knew what I was doing. She stepped into the vocal booth, took the headphones in both hands like they were a crown, and sang a line that made me turn down the monitors just to prove I wasn't dreaming. After, she laughed and asked if I'd always breathed like that when people watched me work. We've been together 3 years. There's a dent in my sofa shaped exactly like her when she reads. The track that broke us a little started as a favor. Marco, the guitarist I've known since we found chords on the same YouTube rabbit hole, wrote a song that wouldn't sit still. It needed Lena. He asked, I said yes. She shrugged like sure. I told myself it was just sound. I forgot sound is a place you can go without leaving the room. The session file was named with that casual desperation artists use. Marco Lena Duet Rough 2 Fina-lish, Logicx. I laughed at the Fina-lish, because lying to yourself in file names is a rite of passage. I opened it, armed with coffee and the good speakers, ready to be a priest for the day. The waveforms looked normal, lead, double harmony, a guitar DI waiting to be forgiven with a reamp. But tucked into the tracks list, grayed out, was a muted region labeled Vox Alt 314. My stomach did a small, unnecessary gymnastic. 3:14. I am not superstitious, but numbers that look like time are a dare. I soloed the track and brought it up, a breath, the rustle of a lyric sheet, not singing, talking. Lena's voice, closer than microphone, should be allowed to make anything, a half laugh. Then a whisper not meant for a mix engineer. We shouldn't stay in this key. It could have been a joke about the song. Then Marco's voice, soft as a necktie, we could modulate. Their laughter again, short and too clean. If you know rooms, you know when a sound sits on the chair like a person instead of air. This was that. It wasn't proof. It was a frequency asking for context. I hit play on the rest of the session, forced myself to do the job. The song was, unfortunately, gorgeous, marble-veined with something reckless. Lena's vocal line held out on the word run a heartbeat longer than dignity, and Marco's guitar answered like an apology pretending to be a lick. At 3:14, right where the muted region named itself, the instrumentation fell away to a single tremolo chord, and a harmony that felt like stepping into a dark kitchen at night and finding the light switch with your forearm. The automation dipped. Silence shaped itself carefully. Then Lena came in like the idea you try to ignore and fail. I did what men do when they don't want to ask the person next to them a question that might change the air. I called Leo, our drummer, who is also my emergency therapist, on speed dial. He picked up on the second ring, mallets in his mouth, which is how he lives. Tell me about 3:14, I said without hello. In the duet, he asked, that's the breath before the bridge. He smacked the mallets down on a practice pad like a metronome that wanted to confess. Marco asked her to do the take twice. The first one was too clean, he likes the mess. Anything else? I asked. Like gossip, he said, or like things I should have noticed and didn't because I was counting. Both, I said, which is another way of saying I wanted to be wrong and right simultaneously. Leo exhaled. He was weird that night, not in a villain way, in a someone finally let him be a problem way. She was kind in a way that solves things too well. He paused. Do you want me to hate him now or later? Later, I said, opening the automation lanes and seeing little hills drawn like decisions. Let me finish a mix that doesn't insult me. I didn't confront Lena that evening. She came home with wine and a jacket that smelled like other people's cigarettes. We cooked something that pretended to be Italian and failed well. On the couch, she tucked her feet under me, and I rested my hand on her ankle the way I do when I want to know if she's thinking about leaving. She stroked my hair absent-mindedly, and I hated how sweet it still felt. We made out like teenagers with mortgages. We kept it just this side of decency, but I had my hand under her shirt at one point, skin on skin, and she whispered my name like she was auditing us. I let it be good. I put the question in a drawer. The showcase was 2 Saturdays away. Labels would be there. The venue had the kind of stage that believes in itself. Marco wanted the duet as the closer. It'll leave them quiet, he said, grinning. The expensive kind of quiet. Lena glanced at me, and I nodded like a producer, which is different from nodding like a boyfriend. She read my face anyway. She always does. On Tuesday, I caught Marco alone at the studio, restringing his semi-hollow like a surgeon checking his instruments. He looked up and gave me the smile he doesn't give cameras. We good for tonight? We're good, I said. Then I said the thing I hadn't planned. What happened at 3:14? His fingers stilled on the B string. He's not a liar, he's not brave either. You heard it, he said. I heard a room, I said. I didn't hear your mouth owning anything. He set the guitar down with reverence. We kissed. He said it like a man nomming a cheap wine honestly. Once in the booth, once on the roof because we were too smart to do it in the hall like a cliché. My chest felt like a kick drum played badly. Twice. Twice, he said. It wasn't a strategy, it was a wrong chord. Did you love her? I asked, because I wanted him to say no so I could put him in a drawer labeled stupid but harmless. He looked at the floor. I love the way she sings like she's losing an argument she enjoys. I love the you who appears when she's in the room. He winced at himself. I love being important to you both for different reasons. That's ugly, I know. Does she love you? I asked. He shook his head. She loves you. She loved my version of us for a week in May when the nights ran long and you were mixing an EDM act until dawn. He looked up. I hate that sentence. Me too, I said. Do you want to swing at me? He asked, light, not flippant. I'm a generous target. No, I said. I want the song to still be good. He nodded. It is. I found Lena in the kitchen that night, hair twisted up with a pencil again, drawing little diagrams of the set list like battle plans. I took the pencil from her hair and stuck it behind my ear. Do we have to fake ignorance for this to work? I asked. She bit her lip, that small gesture that kills me because it isn't theater. I was going to tell you after the showcase, she said, because I didn't want you to hate the work while you were still helping it exist. What if I could hate it and still love you? I asked. Do you want to? She said. It landed like a joke trying to be brave. Tell me, I said. She told me about the night the vocal booth felt like a world instead of a box, about roof tar smelling like summer despite October. She told me about a kiss that was more relief than sex. I wasn't auditioning for another life, she said. I was testing gravity. I failed. It wasn't better than you. It was a different genre. I wanted to ask petty questions. I wanted to make her draw choreography with her hands. Instead, I touched her face with the back of my fingers, the way men do when they don't want to show their palms yet. "I'm not leaving," I said, and waited to see if my mouth meant it. She breathed out. The relief in it was the saddest thing. "I'll take the harmonies down with Leo if you want them to stop sounding like an invitation," she said. "No," I said. "We don't throw away takes because we hate the day they happened." She stepped into me then, and we kissed like collaborators who hadn't quit. Our bodies knew what to do. We kept it in the frame your platform prefers, but it had that heat of people trying to erase a subtitle with a kiss. Her hands went under my shirt. My mouth learned her collarbone again. When she pulled back, she pressed her forehead to mine. "Mix me the way you want to hear me," she whispered. "And then hold me like you don't care about engineering." I worked the next 3 days like a man paying off a debt. I pulled the guitars tighter against the kick, let the snare bloom, tucked the reverb tail so it didn't sound like a lie. At 3:14, I didn't mute the world. I made room for the breath without letting it be an alibi. I left the Vox Alt 314 muted, but not deleted like a lesson. The showcase came wearing the usual nonsense. A label guy in a hat he hadn't earned. A blogger pretending to be bored into power, the bar running polite scams at scale. Backstage, Lena paced, which is her version of prayer. Marco tuned and detuned, laughing at nothing. Leo hit everything he could find that would not break. I stood by the monitor desk with an in-ear and the pit of my stomach wired to the mains. The set was criminally tight. By the time we reached the duet, the room had decided it was safe to be quiet. Leo counted them in softly. The first verse was unabashed. The second was what a fight looks like when you set it to a melody. At 3:14, the breath happened. It landed on the crowd like grace or a trap, I couldn't tell. Lena opened her mouth and sang the line I'd heard in 1,000 rooms. "I won't be the reason you run." It wasn't about me. It was anyway. The applause arrived late, the expensive kind Marco wanted, the kind that pays rent for a month. He grinned in a way that made me remember being 17 at a train bridge, promising ourselves we'd be famous for not quitting. After at the bar, label hats made offers shaped like favors. Lena took my hand under the counter and squeezed once, twice. "Still here." I squeezed back. Marco slid a whiskey toward me with the old grin and the new apology in it. "We did it," he said. I nodded. "We did." Later that night at home, Lena pulled her hair down and wiped her lipstick with the back of her hand. No ceremony. "Can we do rules?" she asked, small but not weak. "Rules," I said. "We don't rehearse leaving." "Rules," she said. "We put names on things we want, even when the names are ugly." "Rules," I said. "We keep takes, but we don't hide tracks." She smiled barely. "One more, we don't put 3:14 on anything else." "Deal," I said. We went to bed like people who chose the same house on purpose. We kept each other slow. We kept each other honest. When she said my name, it sounded like a color-grading note in a room without a screen. I slept for once. Months later, when I opened the session, Vox Alt 314 still sits there, grayed out, a history that doesn't pretend to be prophecy. I tell young engineers not to erase things they wish hadn't happened. I tell them to name them properly and move on. At the bottom of the screen, I've written my own note in the comments box where no one but me will read it. Mute is not the same as heal, but sometimes it's a start. Marco and I still make jokes that hide tenderness. He's on a small tour that might become a big one. Leo learned to love brushes without becoming a different person. Lena started a song last week that begins with a hiss of tape and a breath she does not apologize for. She sent me the rough at 2 a.m. with a single line of text. "Where do you want the silence?" Before the part where we pretend not to hear each other, I wrote back. "In the morning, we'll track it in the room padded like a secret. She'll take the headphones in both hands like a crown. I'll move the faders like a prayer. We'll make choices that ask to be forgiven. And if there's a moment in the song where we leave space for the truth to walk through, it won't be at 3:14. We'll choose a time we haven't weaponized yet. We'll choose daylight, and we'll print it. We always do.